Hello, everyone. On behalf of the Economic Times family, I welcome you all at the DigiTech Dialogues. I am Karthik Sharma. This program is about the leaders, the achievers in the space of technology and e-governance. We talk to the people who are working endlessly and making a big change in the people's lives through technology and through e-governance. And it is our pleasure to talk to these stalwarts in this show of DigiTech Dialogues. And today we have a very special guest with us in this program, Mr. V. Srinivas. He is an IS officer. He serves as Secretary to Government of India, Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances and Pensions and Pensioners Welfare, with the additional charge of Director General, National Center for Good Governance. He serves as India's representative on the Council of Administration of the International Institute of Administrative Sciences. Mr. V. Srinivas has a Master of Technology degree in Chemical Engineering from College of Technology, Osmania University, and has entered his 33rd year of distinguished service in the Indian Administrative Service. He has held senior positions in the Government of India and the Government of Rajasthan, which is his cadre. Having served as Special Secretary and Additional Secretary of DARPG, Chairman Board of Revenue for Rajasthan, and Director General, National Archives of India, he has represented India on the International Monetary Fund from 2003 to 2006 and the International Cotton Advisory Committee from 2010 to 2013. He is a recipient of the Digital India Awards 2020. He has published 2 books, 175 papers, and delivered 80 orations. He is a senior administrator, a respected academician, and an institution builder par excellence. And it is our honor to have you here, sir. Welcome.
Thank you very much for inviting me to the Digital Dialogues. I'm deeply privileged to be part of this discussion.
Thank you, sir. And as we all know that one of the premium Apex awards, which are 24th, which are the National E-Governance Conference and Awards, I think that happen every year. And your ministry is spearheading the National E-Governance Conference from years. And I think you personally are doing a lot of innovations in this part of the work of the ministry. So I would first request you to please throw some light on the major aspects of the 24th National E-Governance Conference, which is happening in a few days.
The 24th National E-Governance Conference would be held at Hyderabad on January 7th and 8th. It would be a collaborative effort between the Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances and the Ministry of Electronics Information Technology, along with the Government of Telangana. The previous 2 conferences were held at Mumbai in January 2020 and at Shillong in 2019. The conferences lay down a roadmap on e-governance initiatives in the country, and they also identify the best practices and innovations in terms of e-governance models. The 24th National E-Governance Conference is been curated on the theme, India's Decade, Digital Governance in a Post-Pandemic World. And the Honorable Minister of State for Personnel, Public Grievances and Pensions, Dr. Jiten Singh Ji, would be the chief guest at the inaugural ceremony on 7th of January. And he would also be the chief guest and confer the National E-Governance Awards to 26 recipients on that day.
Great. I think the industry in the country, I think people see these awards as the Oscars of e-governance, because they actually mean a lot to the people who are doing great work in e-governance. And also these awards and this conference brings out the e-governance initiative, e-services initiatives from the last mile, from the last corner of the society. So I was, also going through a lot of previous awards. even from villages, from tier 2, tier 3 districts. There are initiatives which are being appreciated at this level, and which has given a lot of boost to the Digital India initiative of the government. So I would request you to just throw some light or tell us about some interesting e-governance initiatives you observed in last 2 years, especially in this pandemic period. Initiatives that have removed the interface between government and the citizens. So just tell us some of these initiatives, sir.
Well, what we saw in the post-pandemic world has been that the governance structures have been completely transformed. We work in an environment where work from home policies have prevailed. We have also seen that large number of people have to work in masks and gloves. And at the same time, government's disposal in terms of addressing to service delivery requests or in terms of public grievances has increased a great deal. So the government had to reinvent itself in a number of ways by ensuring that work from home policies were put in place, as also virtual private networks were created so that decision making can be a continuous process. So a number of measures were taken to ensure that government working is not disrupted in this period. And the Central Secretariat particularly, as we see the adoption of Office, the widespread adoption of CPGram's upgraded version of 7.0, demarcation of last mile grievance officers on the public grievance portals. Today, we have more than 70,000 grievance officers demarcated, mapped on the CPGram's portal. Several states have been integrated. Several districts in some of the states have also been integrated on the portal. So grievance redressal is faster, as also in terms of e-office version 7.0 being adopted across ministries, has facilitated decision-making on a virtual basis in a post-pandemic world.
Right, I think great to know about it. And I would also like to know from you, Mr. V. Srinivas, that these awards generally promote the acceptance of technology also by the rural societies, which we have seen. And it is, and also the technology and e-governance, e-services in the rural society is one of the striking feature of the Digital India program of Government of India. So please tell us about the digital impact in rural areas through these programs.
What we have noticed in terms of administrative systems is that after 2014, India has witnessed a massive transformation in its governance models. There have been programs which have been implemented on a scale which was unprecedented. That was possible because the government adopted a Digital India approach. And some of the major success stories that have been felt are the adoption of the direct benefits transfer on a large scale. That was the food and fertilizer subsidies being streamlined. We had the passport seva kendras coming into place, wherein which getting a passport through electronic platforms has become easier. Similarly, the One Nation, One Ration card has become a reality. Also on the Umang app, you can access more than 1,150 services. We also saw a propagation of common service centers, and in terms of the rural India's rural countryside, what we see are business correspondents, we see e-mitras, we see banking correspondents who are available, who are able to enable the transition between the internet rich and the internet poor, and that they are there to provide service to ensure that the internet services reach the last man in the queue. So there have been several reforms which have very visible. One of the big ones is the digital land program of the government of Uttar Pradesh. Today you have more than 1 crore hits per day on the digital land program, people asking for mutations, people asking for their copies of record of rights. So these are available. Similarly, another one which I was fascinated by in 2019 was the Maharera portal of the Real Estate Regulatory Authority of Maharashtra. So digital initiatives, recognized digital initiatives are visibly impacting India's citizens and benefiting millions of citizens. In fact, we have ourselves been part of a Good Governance Week campaign from December 20th to December 25th, 2021. The campaign could be administered across all the districts and tehsils of India and on a digital platform. And that enabled us to share experiences as also identify best practices. So the impact of the digital institutions can benefit citizens in a scale which we have not witnessed before. And India's digital transformation has benefited millions of citizens because we adopted a whole of government approach. As the Honorable Prime Minister has repeatedly said, that we are in the process of implementing and conceptualizing next generation reforms, wherein which the citizens' interaction with the government would be in a seamless manner.
Right. Also, Mr. Srinivas, we heard a lot of success stories around the National E-Governance Service Delivery Assessment Framework. And we would like to know from you, because you have been so very involved in this, in developing this framework. We would like to know that how this framework, this National E-Governance Service Delivery Assessment, is changing the style and approach of governance across the country.
The National E-Governance E-Services Delivery Assessment is one of its kind, in that it tries to benchmark governance. The DRPG publishes two major documents. One is the Good Governance Index, which was released by the Honorable Home Minister on 25th of December, which assesses governance, the state of governance across 10 sectors and 58 indicators. The second one is the National E-Services Delivery Assessment, which tries to benchmark the quality of e-services on the state portals as also on the service portals. Further, it also looks at benchmarking services in terms of 7 parameters of some of the selected service providing central ministries. What we found was that in terms of creating digitally empowered citizens, several states were doing very well. And the number of services that are being provided on digital platforms has been continuously increasing. Even when I look at the incremental growth in governance practices, the Good Governance Index has pointed out that Gujarat topped the Good Governance Index rankings this year. And Uttar Pradesh showed an 8.9% increase in the Good Governance Index indicators. And as Jammu Kashmir has shown about 3.7%. The incremental growth has been possible because several states adopted digital governance models in delivering services, as also in terms of redressal of public grievances. So this was what enabled the transformation and improvement in the governance indicators.
Yeah, there are various different aspects of e-services delivery, and and there are various aspects where states can excel. So I would like to get some idea from you that how these different states are faring in terms of different aspects of e-services. If you see any state surprisingly doing well, or is there any state which needs to be on online, or which some state which are doing better. So for our audience, we would like to know that which states doing what. Some basic idea if you can give us.
States are increasingly trying to go digital, and let me take you to one platform which every citizen would be interested in. That is the public grievances redressal systems, the technology platforms that are available in public grievance redressal. When I studied this last year, we had introduced a category in the PM's Awards for Excellence in Public Administration, and how grievance redressal and service delivery mechanisms were functioning across the nation. What we found was that there were a plethora of extremely successful models in grievance redressal. We had the Janahita model of Telangana. You had the Spandana platform of government of Andhra Pradesh, the E-Janaspandana model of government of Karnataka. We had the Aple Sarkar platform of government of Maharashtra. We also had the CPgrams, which is the national platform. Jammu Kashmir adopted the JKI grams. Haryana had the Chief Minister's window for public grievances. Madhya Pradesh had a separate window for public grievances. Tamil Nadu had a very sophisticated system of grievance redressal. Experience sharing is very important because when a citizen files a grievance, he would expect time-bound redressal as also satisfactory redressal. So we curated an experience sharing session on technology platforms for public grievance redressal. And it was very useful. What we found was each state could draw from another in terms of policy prescriptions, in terms of process prescriptions, in terms of measures that would be needed to upgrade their platforms that could be brought in. Coming to your specific question of how the National E-Services Delivery Assessment 2019 has ranked states, we found that in 2019, Kerala was one of the digitally empowered states in creating digitally empowered citizens. At the same time, in terms of service delivery, we found the state portals of Haryana, Nagaland, and also Rajasthan, which did extremely well in providing a large number of digital services. At the central ministries level, we noted that the CBDT's portal, where income tax returns are filed, the Saral platform was very good, as also the Ministry of Education's portal, Swayam portal, was serving millions of citizens. In terms of digital footprints, we found that the e-hospital software of the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare had a large number of digital footprints in terms of patient registrations for online patient registrations.
That's great to know about the states and how they are doing in terms of e-services, also in terms of public grievance redressal. Your department deals with public grievances and their redressal, and I think it is one of the key things where ICT can play a great role and is playing a great role. So I want to take your view that and also your experience that this redressal of public grievances, has it improved over the years with ICT, and is there any more scope of having more better redressal of public grievances? So just your thoughts on one of the very important aspect of citizen service, the redressal of their grievances. Just throw some light on that.
Yes, public grievances is a very, very important aspect of good governance. And it shows the empathy with which a government responds to individual citizens' needs. During the pandemic, what we observed was that the grievance redressal systems could be scaled up by mapping last mile grievance officers, and the grievance redressal time could be brought down to an average of 1.45 days. So we found there were a number of requests across several categories. There were requests for evacuation, there were requests for medical and health services, there were requests for bank loan restructurings. But we found that the citizens' responses in a large number of cases could be responded to on a timely basis. And this was possible because of the digital platforms. One was the CPgrams version 7.0, where last mile grievance officers were demarcated on the system. Feedback call centers were identified so that every citizen who filed a grievance could be reached out to and his feedback taken with regard to the quality of grievance redressal, and introduction of an appellate authority, a nodal appellate authority. In case a citizen was not satisfied with the quality of grievance redressal, he could go one level higher and seek an improved quality of redressal. We have also tried to bring in artificial intelligence and machine learning into mapping of grievances, as also into identifying suggestions and separating them from very, very urgent grievance redressal cases. Digital platforms in India, particularly in the case of grievance redressal, where the number of grievances being filed on the CPgram system has increased from something like 2.5 lakhs in 2014 to 33 lakhs as it was in 2020. Even in 2021, we had over 22 lakh PG cases being filed with the Department of Administrative Reforms. And I do notice on an average, a district collector is handling about 100,000 public grievances per annum. So it is a huge number of cases that are being addressed. And the reason that it is possible is the strength of digital platforms, which can enable us to reach out to millions of India's citizens. And one of the big ideas that have been conceptualized is how do you bring in modern technology, particularly into government process reengineering, into universalizing e-services, into citizen-centric services like CPGRAMs being made more and more accessible to the common man, and also in terms of adopting emerging technologies into the system. And using AI ML, we found that we could do, spam could be removed. There are a lot of habitual complainants who keep filing complaints. Even after redressal, we found a lot of complaints are largely suggestive in nature, and reach out to the core complaints where the citizen was acutely in need of emergency aid. And those last mile grievances could be reached out to.
That's great. I think reaching out to the real person who needs the services or grievance redressal, I think these technologies can make a lot of difference in finding out the person who is actually in the need. And also, sir, I have followed your addresses and also your articles. One term you use very frequently and at many places in your addresses, the whole of government approach. And so for our audience, I would like to request you to just throw some light on this whole of government approach and what are the challenges and opportunities embedded to it.
The whole of government approach is something that I felt was extremely useful in terms of simplifying a citizen's journey. And in my long years in service, I have tried to adopt digital technology in terms of creating the Digital All India Institute of Medical Sciences. And it was one of the first hospitals which became a fully digital public hospital. So a citizen's journey in a hospital could be simplified, and we have this portal www.ors.gov.in, which enables you to seek online appointments for OPDs, for outpatient departments. The second area where I could work on a whole of government approach was the digitalization of revenue courts of Rajasthan, where we could streamline and simplify a citizen's journey in revenue courts of Rajasthan. Then the CPGRAMs portals, where we have brought in significant reforms into the CPGRAMs version 7.0, bringing in systemic changes to ensure that the last person in the queue would his grievances would be simplified. It is very important to realize and recognize that the citizen is the centrality of a government's odyssey, in that his journey in dealing with governance has to be simplified. And the focus of the government has been, in adopting next generation reforms, has been to simplify the citizen's journey. And my own experience in the last 7.5 years of working and creating digital institutions has been that the next generation reforms are very much feasible. Process reengineering has to be attempted. And a portal, a whole of the government is creating a portal on which more and more services are available, ensuring that the integrated service portals provide easy access. It also provides capacity for request tracking. It has adequate security features. These are what need to be integrated into it. A whole of government approach, while portal would be a good idea, it also needs to be backed up by process reengineering, simplification of office systems, upscaling and skilling of manpower, so that you can ensure that the portal is put to the right use and to the benefit of large number of citizens. And every time you try and introduce a new innovation in the system, it needs a considerable amount of team building so that the entire organization adopts to the new work culture.
That's great. And I would also like to ask you on the one line of a governance model of India. It is about maximum governance and minimum government. Our Prime Minister also envisions this. I would like to know how do you see the future of India on this model of maximum governance and minimum government?
There are two major initiatives that we have undertaken to implement the government's policy of maximum governance and minimum government. And there are very deep administrative reforms that have been undertaken. The first one is with regard to the special campaign on reducing pendency in government. And that special campaign envisaged a major cleanliness campaign wherein which files are weeded out, office spaces are checked and cleaned regularly, as also in terms of pending matters and references to be addressed on time. Scrap disposal should be undertaken. And that campaign yielded significant results. In that 62.5 crores of revenue could be collected from scrap disposal. Nearly 12 lakh square feet of office space was freed. It is a huge amount of office space that has been freed. And over 50 lakh records were weeded out. So there was huge number of physical files that were there that could be weeded out. And that campaign also found mention in the Honorable Prime Minister's 84th Mann Ki Baat that was delivered on the 6th of December 2021. And as one that has resulted in significant improvements in the Central Secretariat in terms of creating a better work environment. The campaign also brought in several best practices in terms of new cafeteria, wellness centers being created, because office spaces were freed from redundant electronic waste or in terms of files which had outlived their longevity. The second major campaign was how do you simplify and create flatter organizations? And that is the initiative for increasing efficiency in decision making in the Central Secretariat. And this was looked at by adoption of e-office version 7.0, adoption of greater digital practices, particularly in the central registration units, adoption of flatter organizations by review of channels of submission, and above all, ensuring that desk officer systems were operationalized and that there was adequate responsibility given through delegation, both administrative and financial, to the middle ranking officers. So that is how the maximum governance and minimum government approach fares. It has to work through higher levels of delegation, greater channels, reduction of channels of submission, ensuring flatter organizations are put in place, and greater digitalization of institutions. And at the same time, there has to be a lot of focus on ensuring that your offices are not overcrowded with outdated files which needed to be weeded out on time, or electronic scrap which has to be disposed on time.
That's great. I think even the post-pandemic world has brought some, more strength to digital world. I think people are going more digital. There are some blessings in disguise at times, and with COVID-19, people have learned to more to do things more digitally than earlier. So lastly, I'll request you to share your message firstly for the people, for the champions of e-governance in the last mile, in the last corners of the country, who are doing such great work, and your ministry is always promoting these champions who are doing such great works in e-governance. And also the people who are now still facing and looking towards the third wave of the corona. So to the people in general, and to the people who are working towards reforms and e-governance service delivery to the people, your message for them so that they stay positive and keep doing the good work which they are doing in the Digital India mission of the government.
At the outset, let me say that during the pandemic and in the post-pandemic period, I have seen several young officers, particularly the district collectors, who have stood in the front lines of duty and put the cause of the nation above themselves. And I have come and interacted with thousands of such officers who have put the cause of the nation above the cause of self by working enormously long hours, as also to ensure that digital services were delivered. Not only digital services in terms of physical presence, they were there to ensure that the mandated policies of government were implemented in the during the pandemic, as also in the post-pandemic period. And they have ensured that the governance models of India were extremely well operationalized and delivered the maximum governance that was possible. So we had a very successful experience with the COVID app. We had telemedicine with eSanjeevani, and a whole number of digital platforms were seen, which were very, very well utilized in this period. And my message to individual civil servants is always put the nation's cause above self, and should be your highest priority. And as the Honorable Prime Minister has said, next generation reforms should be adopted by each and every one of us.
Thank you so much, Mr. V. Srinivas. And audience, here we discussed with Mr. V. Srinivas, who he himself and his ministry, his department is doing great work in reforming the administration, in redressing the public grievances, and in leveraging technology to serve the nation, and also to promote the e-governance champions in the country. And a great service to the nation, Mr. V. Srinivas. And we give all our best wishes to you and your work and your department's work, and best wishes for the 24th National E-Governance Conference. We thank you so much for sparing time from your busy schedule and for talking with the Economic Times government. Thank you so much, Mr. V. Srinivas.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed the discussion.
Thank you so much.